Let me start by saying this. These events happened over an extended period of time, but for the purpose of the story, I've condensed a lot of these events. You see, our father was in the deliverance ministry, meaning he was heavy into spiritual warfare. And the first time I saw a demonically possessed person is when I was 11 years old. It was me, my father, my twin brother Billy, and our younger brother Clyde, 9 years old. We were all at this outdoor church service, and my father was the guest speaker to talk about the power of Satan. He had just started speaking. It's about 15 minutes in, and he says, most of you believe that the devil and his minions are outside of the flock, but the truth is they are among us. You see, Dad had just quoted Luke 4:13 about the demon-possessed man in a synagogue, when he looks up and says, there is even one of you here right now who is under the influence of filthy, dirty spirits, spirits that like children. And before this speech is over, God will make you expose yourself. Then he keeps talking. About 30 minutes later, a man stands up and shouts out, you're a fraud. Then he steps into the center aisle of these neatly arranged white chairs and says, what a narcissist. So we're supposed to believe that God only speaks to you? Calmly, my father replies, God speaks to all of us, but some people refuse to listen. This man looks at him and laughs. So you expect me to believe that God speaks to you? If so, then why is your wife not here? Why are you two getting a divorce? Tell me that. Look, the only people who knew about our family troubles was our immediate family. And it was in that moment that I understood this man was possessed. And so did my father. So he steps down from the makeshift stage and begins to walk among the crowd. And when I say to you, the people were shocked and stunned, these people's mouths were wide open, lips damn near sunk to the floor. My father goes on to say, yes, it's true. My wife and I are no longer on good terms. We're not divorced, but our relationship is strained. His eyes scan across the crowd, and he says, we're having trouble just as many of you in this room are having trouble. But God will deliver us from this as he has done every challenge in the past. Darting, cutting his eyes back to the demon-possessed man, Dad says, the real question is, who are you, evil spirit that occupies this man's vessel? And right there, standing in front of over 100 people, this man's voice changes. He now sounds like a child saying, wouldn't you like to know? Huh, Jonathan? Wouldn't you like to know? Right then and there, my father starts to rebuke this demon in the name of Jesus Christ. This man begins to shake, twist around, falls to the ground, and begins to slide away from us. His body laid flat on his back, knees bent, feet pushing him along the ground. Listen, at this age, I had read the Bible. I knew demons were real. I knew angels were real. And I knew God was definitely real. But I sat there watching my father literally walk behind this man as he slithered down the aisle on his back, rebuking him. Then the man stands up, begins to cough, and this look comes over his face like he had freaking amnesia. And he says, where am I? Why am I here? What's going on? What's going on? Listen to me. With experiences like that at 9 years old, you definitely know that your life is going to be full of ups and downs. But I never, ever would imagine that my brothers and I would experience the things that we saw. On a car ride home back to Florida, I remember saying to my dad, Dad, I can't believe you did that. That was amazing. But he angrily pulls the car over to the side of the road, looks in the back seat and says, son, don't ever believe that you personally have power over demons. All of our power comes from God. We are his vessels when we allow him to use us to make the kingdom perfect. And that was when it all started for us. The kids of a minister. The strange, weird stuff was endless. For example, I remember one day we were walking home from school and Clyde wanted to take this shortcut. In order to do so, we had to cut through this wooded area. Not spooky woods at all. Partially cleared, regular woods where people were about to develop houses. Now, look, this little area is on the backside of our school. In order to get there, you had to jump over this small canal. And once we got through those woods, we would be about 10 houses away from home. So all three of us are walking through the woods when all of a sudden Clyde stops and says, "Hey, did you see that over there?" Billy, my twin brother, who till this day has the shortest patience on the planet, says, "Clyde, come on, man, this was your idea. Let's hurry up and get home. I don't like being in the woods." His refusal to move combined with Billy's platinum impatience leads to an argument right there in that spot. The two of them are arguing back and forth. Clyde saying, "I saw something by the tree." Billy saying, "Man, let's go and get home." As they're going back and forth, I'm kind of moving to my left, trying to get a look at the tree that he's pointing at. And sure enough, I see what looks like a woman's ponytail hanging out from behind the tree. The more I move, the better the angle gets. And it looks like a skinny woman standing there with her back turned to us behind the tree. I scream out, ma'am, are you okay? Are you hurt? Do you need some help?" As I'm screaming at her, the arguing stops. I say it again, ma'am, are you okay? Do you need some help? Can we help you?" Listen, but then she turns around and this ain't no woman. Yes, it had female features, but God knows this was not a woman because her skin was pale like loose leaf paper. Her eyes were black and she didn't have lips, just these big, wide, square teeth that reminded me of Lego blocks. Listen to me when I tell you, I didn't take time to explain anything to the two of them. I just screamed, "Run, run, run, run." The next thing you know, the three of us are sprinting back in the direction of the school, hopping over that canal, crossing the football field, running through football practice, out the front gate. We didn't stop running until we got home. Upon arriving at the house, the problem that we had was no one was there. So we sat there on the sofa waiting, terrified, until my father got home from work. And when we told him what we saw, he asked us to take him back to the spot where it happened. But by the time we got back there, it was long gone. The next incident I can remember happened when Clyde was 12 years old. He wanted to ride his bike. Billy and I didn't feel like riding, so we told him, "Look, you're old enough to go outside and ride around the neighborhood by yourself." And to this day, this is one of my greatest regrets as an older brother, because we let him go out of the house alone. An hour passes and we realize that Clyde has not come back home. So I go out looking for him, only to find his bike laying on the ground outside of this abandoned house. Now pause here for a moment, because I believe that this was God speaking to me, because something just told me, something in my gut said, "Go to the backyard, your brother is there hiding." So I hop off my bike, jump the wooden fence, and start to look around. Listen, walking along the side of this house, I hear him crying. The sound coming from underneath the raised house. Down on my hands and knees, there he is, Clyde, right there under the house, tears coming down his face, and he whispers, "It's in the yard. It's in the yard." Now listen to me, I'm not thinking clearly at this moment in time, so I say loudly, "What's in the yard? Come from under the house, man. You got me worried sick. Come on, let's go home." But that's when I hear the growl. Looking down the side of the house, you see a giant black dog. I mean massive, but not like a pit bull or German shepherd. This thing looked like it was straight out of the movie. It was mangy with torn skin and boils, and you could see the bones. It looked like it should not have been alive. Now, as I'm down on the ground, it's turning a corner and coming straight at me. So I dart under the house, grab him, and begin to crawl and crawl and crawl until we get to the front side of this house. Now, even though I'm scared out of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I should be able to get to the front of this house, crawl out of the front, and get back to our bicycles. But when we get to the front side of this house, there is a decorative brick wall right there. And that wall is blocking us from getting out. Now, we are there frantically kicking at those bricks, trying to knock them loose. And I'll never forget this because the rubber-soled flip-flops that I was wearing began to twist and turn, and my heel began to make direct contact with the brick and mortar. And it seemed like every time we kicked, it was growling. Then it starts to dig, trying to get under the house, but it's entirely too big to fit under this house. Finally, the bricks begin to fall and give way, and creating a hole, and I begin to push my younger brother, Clyde, through that hole. He is now out. Now I am trying to fit my body through that same hole, and it's not working. So I have to pull myself back out, kick more bricks, and make a way out for myself. Now we're both in the front yard of this abandoned house, onto our bikes, and speed back home. Now, when we walk in the front door, my mother and father are there sitting on a sofa talking. Now, I didn't want to tell my dad what happened in front of my mother because my mother had already been trying to get my dad to stop being a minister because of the crazy things that were going on. And this would only make the situation worse. So I start heading up the steps, but no, my brother Clyde blurts it all out right in front of my mom. Mommy, there was this giant dog and it looked like a zombie and it was trying to get us. This look comes over my mother's face and the argument ensues. Her saying to my father, it's not safe for the boys as long as you are doing this. So either I'm going to take them or you're going to stop with this ministry. My father's reply being, you are not going to take my sons. God will protect them just like he has protected you and me. He goes on to say, just because you see evil does not mean you have to run from it. Listen to me. That argument goes on for hours. I'm talking about into the wee hours of the morning. This is how strange things were around my house as a child. Now, to make you understand why my mom felt the way she did, she had some very horrific encounters. I remember when I was 7 years old, hearing my mother screaming upstairs at the top of her lungs. When I get into the master bedroom, she's in the bathroom, the door's locked, and I can literally hear her drowning in the bathtub. My dad has to come into the room and physically break the locked door off the hinges. Now imagine me as a kid, peeking around the corner, looking at this scene. My father standing on the edge of the tub, holding my mother's arm, literally trying to pull her from beneath the water so that she could breathe. And every time her body would emerge from that water, it was physically slammed back down. I stood there and watched as my father panicked and struggled to pull my mother. I heard her drowning and then witnessed my father calm down, step down from the edge of the bathtub and say, in the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to let my wife go. Listen to me when I tell you this. Her naked body flying out of the tub, knocking him to the ground, landing on the floor, water splashing up, hitting the sills, the walls, coming out of the bathroom. So needless to say, my mom had experienced stuff that would make any woman want to leave a relationship. And even though she loved my father and loved us, she just had enough. Now listen to me. The argument between my two parents was so bad that we didn't even get a chance to fully explain to my father what had happened until the following evening. Once we told him exactly what happened, he put us all in a car and we went right back to that house. When we get to the house, my father literally kicks the fence down and walks into the backyard and begins to pray, saying out loud, whatever spirit is here in this home, these are the last two young men that you will ever terrorize. I bind you in the name of my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. He circles that house 7 times. Then we get back in the vehicle and drive back home. Then something happened that changed our lives forever and changed my father to his core. You see, my family had gone through the spell where nothing bad was happening at all. In fact, my parents were getting along well. I was a junior in high school. The prom was right around the corner. And our lives felt normal for a change. The plan for that particular night was that we all were going to sit down and watch a movie as a family. My dad went out back to start grilling steaks so we could eat and watch this movie. I remember my father had just come back inside from the backyard where he had started the grill to begin grilling the steaks. He's standing in the kitchen at the island chopping onions when I hear him say, "Jesus Christ." Turning and looking at the glass patio door, the flame from the grill is now darting through the open door into the house, and it looks like a serpent. It is literally slithering through the air. Once inside, it splits into 3 serpents. It tracks up the walls to the ceiling, into the living room, around the hallway, up the stairs, and our whole entire house is now on fire. Dad grabs the fire extinguisher and tries to put this fire out, but it will not go out. We stand outside waiting on the fire department for 15 minutes as our house burns. The entire time you hear this growling and moaning coming from inside of the house. That was it for my parents. That was the last straw. Dad gave it all up. Listen, we still went to church and we still prayed, but after that, my father was a broken man. People would literally come to us begging my father for help, but he refused. He even turned down speaking engagements. We're talking about very expensive $20,000 speaking engagements. Now, it's sad to say this, but I remember talking to him and seeing that broken look in his eyes saying, "Daddy, you've always told us that God would protect us. What happened? Why have you quit? Why are you giving up?" His only response was, "God did protect us, son, because we didn't die, but we lost everything. And I can't put you, your brothers, and your mother through that anymore. We're fine. We're safe. We had insurance. But we can't do this anymore, son. We just can't. It's too emotionally taxing for us." Listen to me. When I tell you my father was never the same, he was never the same. We all knew it. My mother, my brothers, he just wasn't the same man. And I believe that he decided to lay down his sword and stop fighting evil just for us. I tell you, I believe that if he didn't have a wife and a family, I think my father would have never left that house. He would have tried to pray that fire away. But you see, that's what evil does. Evil attacks your weakness. And my father's weakness was his family. Now, listen to me. My dad is 85 years old and he's still kicking. But if you ask him anything about evil,